And gentlemen, I want to welcome you here to Focus on Liberia. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. And this is Focus on Liberia. It's Saturday, and it is our Saturday special. A different kind of special this time. We are here to do an analysis on a major speech that was delivered by Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings of the ANC and chairman of the CPP. He made a major speech. Many people have read it. I have read it. Dennis has read it. Cooney has read the speech, and Edward also did. And so we are here to do an analysis. But here is the deal, folks. Eduardo read the speech and he said, "This is an excellent speech." As for Wilman Cooney, who is a chief political analyst here at Focus on Liberia, he's not buying it. He told me, "Anthony, that speech is more like a recitation and is very, very disappointing." Who's telling the truth? Well, this is an intellectual debate. Well, I want to tell you, they will go into it. My name is Anthony Sear. My partner, Dennis Ja, is here. We will be doing the questioning and they will be providing the analysis based on their observation or description of the speech. Mr. Ja, are you ready?
I'm all set. Let's go into the speech of Mr. Alex Benedict Cummings. That's the leader of the collaborating political party, who delivered his fiery speech right after his trip to the Southeast. And we all read the speech. Two persons read it and came out differently on what they think it is. But for every speech, analyzing every speech, we first want to know what the objective of that speech is. And then we go into the body of the speech, how it was delivered and if those objectives were met. And so we're going to be doing out all that today. Wilmon Cooney is our senior political analyst here at Focus on Liberia. Mr. Edward Doe will soon be starting his own show on Focus on Liberia very soon called On Point. So they both are affiliated with Focus on Liberia, and they are going to be going at it tonight, analyzing the speech. Gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. I want to start with Mr. Doe. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you so very much for welcoming me on this Focus on Liberia. And first and foremost, I want to issue a disclaimer. I'm not a member of ANC. I do not affiliate with any political party. I'm a political activist. I'm an activist and an advocate. And I read a speech, and I felt that it was an excellent speech. For me, for a speech to meet my requirements is that it should be a serious argument in the speech, first and foremost for me. And it should appeal to the audience to either do something or think about something new. And also it should stir up emotion. And a speech to me stir up emotion. And I also appeal to reason, whatsoever. And also the speech provided a sense of occasion. And the speech was not a policy speech. So if Mr. Wilmer Connie is looking for something, so like solutions and things of that nature, you will not find that in the speech explicitly. But there are some solutions in the speech that is implicit. So I will leave it right there and let Wilmer introduce himself.
Mr. Cooney, you heard that. Mr. Doe start throwing punches already. We say, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your turn.
I'm happy to be here again. And my brother Doe, I want to welcome you to the show. It looks like you're in such a haste to throw the punches, but we'll wait for our time and we'll present our own side of the argument. We think that given these times, when either the government make a position or the opposition make a position, whether it is a speech, whether it is a rally, whether it is something that addresses the needs of our people, I think it is incumbent upon us to analyze it, to see the merits and the demerits of it. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing here tonight. And I hope that we can disagree and agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to start with Mr. Sie. Mr. Sie, and I mean, when you are the political guy here, and you produce a show analyzing the speech, why is this speech so important, and why do we need to talk about it?
Liberia politically is in transition. Liberians, based on my observation, are hurting economically. Politically, I'm not sure they are in love with the leadership that we have. And history tells us that when you see a group of people in a country feeling that way, then they are poised to make a transition in terms of leadership. And so the urge will always be to look for something better. And their options will always be people who want to be president or leaders. And that why brings Cummings, the CPP, and other leaders in the opposition in the picture. And the fact that he is the current chairman of the CPP, he felt the need to give the Liberian people a speech that will show him and his institution, the CPP in this case, as that alternative that Liberians are starting to think about. And so I felt that there was a major speech that needed an analysis so that the Liberian people will get a better understanding of what Alice Cummings is up to or what the CPP and the opposition is up to here. And that is why, as the man from the political department here focused on Liberia, I felt the need for us to do an analysis on this speech. And I think it will help our people to see what the CPP and Alice Cummings are up to here.
And that's why we are here. And gentlemen, even though Mr. Doe went ahead first, but we want to give you the opportunity to say off the back, you read the speech, and just in 2 minutes, tell us your general impression.
And let's start with Mr. Coonan this time.
Mr. Cummings, Mr. Coonan this time.
Yeah.
Okay, and listen, precisely due to the point that Asani advanced, that during these times, our country is going towards election. I've always said repeatedly on this show that the duty of the opposition is to hold the government accountable, is to develop new leadership, and to also present an alternative to what is in place. We are about 3 months away from elections. And here is a speech from the chairman of the opposition political parties. Here is the chairman of the opposition political parties presenting a major speech. There is the anticipation that this speech will give Liberians an idea as to why the opposition should be preferred, why the opposition should be an alternative. Regrettably, what this speech does is just a recitation of Liberia's age-old problem. It's just the recitation of the same problem we've been facing. There is no policy solution. I mean, the Liberian people are not provided any alternative. It's just grievance. Part of it is recitation, and part of it is grievance against the government. We've listened to all of that. I think what the people are yearning for is, what is the opposition going to do? Mind you, we are 3 months from election. And within that context, the speech failed miserably. It failed miserably. The recitation of Liberia issue problem, anybody can recite those problems. And what really come across is that in the speech, it sometimes appears like Mr. Cummings is truly strange to the problems of Liberia. You go into the Southeast and you're surprised that there is no infrastructure development in the Southeast. Where have you been? That is the story of the Southeast from the time the country was founded. You know, it sounded like this is a Christopher Colombo who have made new discoveries. The conditions he talked about, those are the conditions of our people. from independence. He's not discovering anything new. And at the same time, he's not proposing anything new. So the speech is basically a recitation of our problems and grievances against the government, but no action as to why people should prefer, they should see the opposition as an alternative. The speech was completely absent on that front. And this is why I think the speech was a colossal failure.
Mr. Wilmer Cullen there saying the speech was disappointing, a recitation of our HO problems. But Mr. Doe is not buying it. Mr. Doe, I know you started punching, at the end of the game, you wanted to be a few steps ahead, but the referee has blown the whistle. So go for it.
Well, Mr. Coney is reciting what I expected him to recite. He's looking for a speech that is full of solutions. He's looking for a policy speech. If you look at speeches historically, most speeches that are great speeches, they are not filled with policy. They are not filled with solutions. Take, for example, Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream. It's not filled with solutions. Take, for example, Nelson Mandela speech. It's not filled with solutions, but there are speeches that, give rise to reason, that appeal to reason, that talks about issues, that talks about problems, that speak to the problems. And in some of those speeches, those great speeches, you find embedded in those speeches some solutions implicitly. Implicitly. If you look at Mr. Cummings' speech, when he spoke about this government, militarizing the youth of Liberia, and the youth of Liberia, this government is not focused on educating the youth of Liberia. They are focused on violence, making this youth of Liberia to create more violence, crime, and things of that nature. Embedded in what he is saying that this government should rather focus on education, because first and foremost, we have lost a generation already. The 1990 babies that were born during the wartime, this is a generation that is lost. They are not educated. They barely read very well. Most of them that graduated from LU, they read on the 5th grade level. Their rationale is poor, things of that nature. And the government should not be facilitating and militarizing these youth, into violence and things of that nature. That's not the future we should be building for Liberia. So he expressed that. Then he also mentioned about corruption. He said poverty is being facilitated by corruption. The more corruption you get, the more people will go into poverty. The more poverty increases. So there is solutions there. He's speaking to corruption, saying that, listen, we have to find a way to deal with corruption. So from that two standpoint, I like the speech. I would talk more about the other issues whatsoever. Yeah. But mind you, great speeches are based on arguments, and he raised some very good arguments.
Thank you. And I will let Mr. Sia will go deep into the speech, but I want to be on top of the speech, play around the edges before we go into it, and Mr. Sia will lead that so that we can bite into it. But before we get to that point, let's talk about the timeliness of the speech. Was it the right time? What facilitated the speech at this time? Was it timely? Let's start with Doe.
Yes, it was timely because of the recent incident that happened in Grand Jita. That recent incident involved young people, engaged in violence, whatsoever. And we're heading towards elections. So therefore, that can disrupt our democracy, And that's the same thing that Mr. Coney, I think the second paragraph of his speech, he went into that immediately, that this government is militarizing the young people to engage in violence, things of that nature. So, and they're not focused on educating the young people. So the timeliness of the speech is on point. He is right to give the speech at this time because the direction Liberia is heading towards, crime, violence, is not the right direction, especially for young people.
Mr. Cooney, timeliness.
Yeah, listen. If look, I don't even know the timing of the speech because the issue of Zwedru has already been dealt with. The government spoke forcefully against the use of violence in our politics. So that was taken care of. But talking about militarizing the youth, I mean, that is completely, it is unfair for Mr. Cummings to make that allegation against the government. Just a fortnight ago, the militant wing of Mr. Cummings' own party, own political party, dislodged other partisans. It was not the government that empowered, that authorized those youth. The issue of the militancy of our politics is not something that is fomented by the government. Every political party in our country, they got their youth wing. So for him to make that allegation that the government is militarizing the youth, that's an unfounded allegation. He doesn't have any support for that. But more so to the point, look, Edward, I'm not saying every speech will give you solutions. But what I'm telling you, we're in a political season. We are going 3 months to election. Anything that comes from a political leader or that comes from a political party must be something that will give the Liberian people reason to decide. We are 3 months from election, and this man gave a major speech, and all he did was to recite the problems of our country and to recite grievances against the government. He didn't give any hope to the Liberian people. You talk about Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King's speech, yeah, it was not a policy speech, but in that speech was hope. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. It was an inspiration. Nothing in the speech. Mr. Cummings talk I left about corruption. What is he going to do about corruption? What is his plan on corruption? To recite that, corruption is bad. Corruption. Everybody know that corruption is bad, but we want to know your plan on fighting corruption so we can compare it to what the government is doing, so that the voters can be able to decide. And on other issues,
Thank you, Mr. Cooney.
Yeah, on other issues. Okay, we're
talking about the timeliness. Let me ask my final question on the periphery, and then we can go deep into it. So, because what I hear you say is the speech is not timely, but the next thing is the objective, because every speech should have a purpose. What do you think Mr. Cummings was trying to achieve in this speech, and was the objective achieved?
Everything was confusing. If you read the speech has no purpose except that I think the political leader wanted to speak to showcase his eloquence, or to show his mastery of. I mean, look, if you look at the build-up to the speech, the Facebook build-up to the speech, I'm doing that. There should be a major speech that Liberians should take something from. And as I said, you look in the speech, there is no vision, there is no solution, there is no aspiration. It's just a recitation of our problems since 1847 and all of the grievances against the government. We heard that. So, but what are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do? Leave us hanging?
So probably his objective was to recite the problem. But let me go to Mr. Doe. Let's look at the purpose of this speech. What was the purpose? Well, was it achieved?
Yeah, the purpose was achieved. There was a great objective in his speech. Okay. And first and foremost, let me respond to Mr. Coney. Mr. Coney, you said there was no hope in the speech. Apparently, it seems like you did not read the speech to the full extent. If you look at the last paragraph of the speech, Mr. Coney was very clear to give hope. Let me read what he said. He said, "The truth is that our nation has survived many disappointments. We have overcome many failed leaderships. We are persevering people. And so even in this moment of difficulty and hopelessness," he goes on to say, "I call on all of our people not to lose hope. We cannot fall into the temptation of hate and violence, which are nursed by hopelessness." He goes on to say, "Today, I stand on the foundation of our history of resilience, that which lighted
the path." We'll get to the meat.
But no, Edward, before we get to the
Hold on, Mr.
No, don't interrupt Edward. That's his time. He using your time. Let him use it the way he feels.
You interrupted me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I wanted you to talk about the purpose of the speech, and if that was.
I'll get there, but I want to talk about the hope first. That you said that because the hope, that's a part of the purpose too, giving hope. So I want to highlight that first because Mr. Cummings said there was no hope in the speech. So I'm reading the last paragraph of Mr. Cummings' speech to highlight that he spoke about hope. He spoke about unity. He spoke about perseverance. Those are hope. He spoke about let us not be hopeless. That's hope. All right. So you cannot, wave that. Apparently, you didn't read the speech to its fullest, whatsoever. Let me read the last part. This last part, you said, and when we do across, and when we do across our differences in tribes, gender, religion, political associations, together we'll reset our course toward inclusive growth, sustainable development. We will reset toward meeting our aspirations to build a nation that is free, truly independent, deeply committed to democratic governance, and dedicated to unity, reconciliation, and equal opportunity for all of our people. So then, again, he laid the foundation for hope. Unity, aspirations, sustainable development, and democratic governance. So I don't know what part of the speech you read, and there was no hope. So to answer your question, Mr. Ja, right. Yes, the objective is to give, one, hope to Liberians, but also to highlight some of the problems of Liberia. Highlight those problems, but yes, they give hope.
Well, let me just quickly come in. Look, I read the same thing you read. Recitation of people having hope is not giving people hope. It's not giving people hope. You give people hope through the actions that you intend to take that will change the life of the Liberian people. Mr. To say, oh, we are resilient.
Mr. Cummings, this is not a politics speech.
Hold on, Mr. Doe. Mr. Cummings. Let me ask you the question, and then we'll go to the meat of the speech. You are saying this man is just reciting HO problem. That is not hope. Do you understand that this is a political speech?
But that's precisely why I'm criticizing it.
And what do you expect from a political speech from an opposition leader?
I expect contrasting vision for the country. I expect the opposition to give us a contrasting vision. It's different from reciting the grievances against the government. It's different from saying the government is bad, the government is corrupt, the government is this.
Can I come in a minute?
No, Edward, wait.
Hold on, Mr. Doe.
Yeah, and Mr. Cummings, the previous opposition party do what you believe in that Cummings has failed to do here, or the opposition has failed to do here.
We discussing earlier Cummings speech. You want to go to why the people they 1847?
I'm doing my job here.
We're discussing, I'm telling you, I'm analyzing the speech. I'm saying the speech failed because the speech did not convey vision. The speech did not convey a national plan of action to address all of the things that Mr. Cummings identified. It is a recitation about the failure of government. Those who oppose the government, they already know those failures. They don't need that recitation. What people need is, what are you going to do to address these failures? That's what voters need.
Can I come in a second, please?
Do you know of opposition leader in anywhere in any part of the world that are addressing national problems head on as a government will do, for which you are expecting Cummings to be solving problems here in his speech?
As soon as you mischaracterize me, I'm telling you there is no vision. I'm not saying Mr. Cummings should go solve national problems. He cited problems, but did not present a vision as to how he will address those problems if the Liberian people were to give him the opportunity to lead. That's the point. You need to put your vision up and forward so that the Liberian people can judge your vision and judge the government so that voters can make a decision. You don't have special anytime,
can I come in a second, please?
Anytime you open your mouth in the political process, we need contrasting views on the future of our country. To say, let's be resilient.
All right, Mr. Dole, come in, then we'll go into the meat of the speech quickly. Mr. Dole, 1 minute, please.
Yeah, apparently Mr. Cummings does not understand what it means to have vision. Mr. Cummings just stated earlier that Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, was a speech that had vision, speech that has solutions and things of that nature. So if Martin Luther King's speech can have a vision and solutions, then what's about this? Martin Luther King's speech was about hope. Okay? So hope is part of the solution. Hope does not mean that you must be specific as to giving policy speeches. Martin Luther King did not give policy speeches, nor did Nelson Mandela gave policy speeches, but they were giving speeches of hope. The objective of those speeches was mainly to gather the people hope so they can lose hope, so they can be hopeless, so that they can be hopeful that one day things will be better. And that's the same thing too. This speech is set out to do. Maybe the next speech that Mr. Cummings did may be a policy speech. I don't know that. But this speech is an excellent speech.
Thank you. Mr. Jai was coming to you. You just listening to the two gentlemen. Cooney is saying there's no hope in the speech, but I don't know whether he was able to accomplish that here. I read the speech. I saw hope. And so for him to say that Cummings did not offer the Liberian people hope, I have a contrary view to that. There is hope in the speech. Even the word hope is there. He mentioned the word hopelessness. I mean, so hope is there. What do you think? Who's right here, in your opinion? You're just listening to the two gentlemen. Kuni is saying no vision.
Well, and I want. That's why I wanted to go in the that's what I asked the question on the purpose. So it's easier for Mr. Kuni to say no purpose and then he move on that's why I wanted to ask Mr. Doe if the purpose you say is to inspire hope in the Liberian people. And that hope, when is that hope supposed to be realized? Is it when the CPP comes to power, or what is that time this hope supposed to be achieved?
Well, let me just address one thing first.
Address what I asked you. I don't want you to.
Yes. When you list, if you give a laundry list of problems, all right, whatsoever, even in your own house, and you tell your family, say, listen, this is the problems we have, but I can see us in the future eradicating this problem, whatsoever. There's hope that we'll deal with this problem, we'll overcome this problem. And this is what Mr. Cummings did in his speech here. Now, the timing of when the hope gonna happen, whatsoever, perhaps when CPP comes to power, maybe that's when we're gonna see some sort of hope. There will be a restructure of government. There will be a lot of reforms, whatsoever. They'll have a policy agenda, things of that nature. And this speech was not out there, did not seek out to build, on policy. It did not seek. It did not seek to tell us, what CPP would do. But the speech was geared towards, keeping hope alive, listing those problems, violence, corruption, things of that nature, but keeping hope alive. And he expressed it in this last paragraph.
Okay.
Can I come in quickly?
Now, we will not move forward. You just ended up giving a meaning. All right.
Mr. Sia, you asked me a question. Let me answer it so that you know.
Okay.
Because I read the speech, and I really want to agree with Mr. Cooney that I did not see a contrasting vision. I saw. I mean, he was spot on when he criticized the government, and he put everything on leadership. He was spot on right there. But hope does not only mean that this is what I'm going to do when I get in power. To me, hope means that you can see hope in us right now. Earlier, we had a show of the Bong Mine Association where people that live in Bong Mines before the war have come together in the United States. And people that live in Bong Mine, if you know them, they are from all backgrounds. They are from all political, economic persuasions. Yet these people, without looking at tribes, they have come together and raised $44,000 to go back and give back to their community back in Liberia. So I wanted Mr. Cummings to cite some example of the good things that are happening, like the Bong Mines example that I gave you. To me, that is hope. The hope I saw was go through all this problem. When we remove Joshua and I get there, then the problem will be solved. I think if I'm living there in Kwiatu, that is not going to inspire me. That means I have to wait like 3 years or more years before this come, I will not be that hopeful.
Here's
But
my take, and
Mr.
then we'll
Dennis,
move forward.
Mr.
Gentlemen,
Dennis.
no, gentlemen, hold on. This is my take. I disagree with Mr. Ja completely. I
So
disagree
same with
with
me.
him completely.
Same with
Mr.
me.
Ja need to understand that this is the business of politics. It is about persuasion based on what the people feel and telling them that it will be well. If Mr. Ja does not have a job today, if he's going to tell his family that things are tough right now, it will be okay. Is he going to tell them, I'm going to get an SUV for you? Is that what he's going to do
Exactly.
without knowing what type of job he's
Yep.
going to get in the next few
Yeah,
months? Is he going to
exactly.
tell them, I'm going to buy a $1 million house? What he's going to tell
Yep.
them is,
Yep.
we will get through this as a family. And
Yes.
that's what Alex Cummings has done. Look, here's the thing. The
I
men
can tell
have
you.
to narrate the problems of the day. And
Yes.
if Mr. Ja is any right at all about vision or contrasting the issues, Cummings did that. He talked about the CPP as an institution that came together,
Yes.
4 political
Yes.
parties coming
That's what I want to
together,
point out. Yes.
having a leadership. He
Yep.
said that. So if you are looking for specific example, if you're looking for them to what? Bill or billing and start giving people food or what? What are you looking for?
No.
Can I
Opposition
answer that
political party
question?
don't do anything specific all over the world.
Can
All
I
right,
answer
like
that
they're going to
question?
give you
That's
this and that. No, they don't do that. They
Can
tell
I
the
an-
people this is how we will lead differently, and he did that.
can
he
I
did
answer
that,
that?
and he
Can I
also
answer your
mentioned
question?
about
No,
the
no, 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 no,
institutions.
gentlemen, we gotta make
Institutions.
progress here. We gotta make
Yeah, but
progress.
you
We're
just
going
said something
almost.
I
Yeah, but
wanted
let me
to.
answer your question. You don't throw the thing
Yeah,
out and say we got to make progress.
I wanted to respond to it because you
Mr. Cooling,
missed.
you have been speaking, and Delia and myself, as a whole, we are giving conclusion on the first segment. To move to the next segment, it will be a
Yeah,
back
but
and forth.
what you did there is you mischaracterized what I said to make a point. You are saying that I said that the opposition should say we will do this. Okay,
You
I
used
gave
that
you an
as an
example.
example. I did not
Yeah, no, but
mischaracterize
the
your
example I
statement.
gave you
I
was about
used
bond
that as an
mines.
example.
The example I gave you was about bond mines association.
And that's
To look at
specific. The people they carry money, they carry food items, and that's why
no,
you want it.
but
So I did
no,
not
no, no. What,
mischaracterize you.
But Dennis Jai,
no.
in
What that
Mr. Cummings'
example
speech,
means, is, in spite of the way we all cry about tribalism and everything else, we saw in Bond Miners Association a group of people from different backgrounds, not thinking about tribe, because
And you
this
think
place
the
is.
people in the
Hold
political
on,
parties not come from
hold on.
everywhere? They come from
Hold on now.
everywhere.
You're missing my point. You're missing my point. I want Cummings to cite specific example of the good things that are happening in spite of the problems he listed. So bond mines, in spite of
but
all the differences,
Cummings
they were
cannot
able
In
to
cite
spite
come.
the
of
good
all the
things.
things that are happening, you have 4 political parties coming
you
together
keep
from
interrupting me.
different counties. So
But
what an example
You
Mr.
keep
you want?
interrupting me, so you're not letting me to land. Can I land now?
Go ahead.
The way
Yeah,
you
land.
inspire hope in people is when you give example of the good things that are happening. So example of one good thing that is happening, I say I'm drawing on the bond miners example. That group of people are able to come together. So you use that to inspire others. You don't only list problem and say, go through all this, it will be well when I get to power. What needs to change now can be done right now. And that's what
No,
Mr. Cummings has not done.
I sort of disagree
That
with
is
you,
not possible.
Dennis.
You got
And
me to
Dennis,
disagree with you
I
more and
disagree
more.
with you.
But let's bring William Kim in. William, you've been following the conversation.
Yes,
What's your take?
I have, and I believe that this is a political speech. It is part of the whole political tactic, because at the end of the day, why would Alex Cummings say anything positive that maybe the current administration is actually doing? He's probably not gonna do that. Thank you.
Agree.
All right,
But
gentlemen,
Can
we
I
have to make
make one
progress.
comment,
Hold
please?
on, gentlemen,
okay.
we got to make progress because we're gone 40 minutes now. We are still at the introductory aspect of the speech, and we don't want to go more than 2 hours here. So let's get started. In the first segment of the speech, in the introduction part, Mr. Cummings first started with Liberia at 173 years. You know, how he left Monrovia and he traveled to the southeast. He passed through all these counties and he started a tradition that we will all do to wish our friends and family happy Independence Day. And at the end of the tour, he came to realize that wishing the people happy independence was not the right thing to do because their conditions is contrary to happiness. All right, he said that. And then from his entire assessment, he saw that social services are completely out of order in the country after 173 years. And that's why he was able to communicate to the Liberian people. And I want people to understand that this man is a leader of the collaborating political parties. Because Kuni was saying earlier that the man is just reciting. You want the man to travel and not report.
When you
Mr.
are
C,
talking
let the two people come in. So just leave it right there. Let Kuni and Do come in. On the first thing you said about the 173 years, and Mr. Cummings said, it struck me as a cruel jest to have wished our people happy independence. So from that first part, we want the two panelists to come in and respond.
So let me come in. Look, the point we're making here, the CCP can take our views. I mean, they can take it and put it anywhere they want to put it. But basically, no one here, the view we're making here, no one is saying Mr. Cummings should go and fix the problem of government. But what we are saying is politics is about contrasting views that you use to market your political party to mobilize the people. In the speech are all recitation of problems. The way you create hope is not just to talk about hope. It's that, look, we're in this crisis. This is the condition you're facing. This is the plan I have. It is the plan you present to the people that create hope, not just the measure of the world hope that gave people hope. You went to the Southeast. You say it is a jest to wish people a happy 26 because of the condition of the Southeast. So the next thing people expect to hear, so what are your programs? Why should we prefer you? You talk about the youth not being educated. We are interested as to what are your programs. We're not saying fix the problem now, but we're saying what are your programs? We are in this country.
Mr. Kuni,
no,
go to the first point that Mr. C introduced about the 173 years.
The one I said the first point come across that Mr. Cummings is actually a newcomer to Liberian politics because the condition that he's talking about has been the condition of our people for 173 years. And besides reciting those conditions, Mr. Cummings did not put forth any idea as to what the CCP will do that will make me a voter to decide between the CCP and the ruling government. That's the point I'm making. Even on other issues that he talked about in the speech. Look at when he talked about the nothing. Recitation of the problem is not enough. We want to know what the CCP will do with these problems. We are in a political process. People are forming their political decision now as to who to vote for in the coming election. And the final point I want to make, and since as Sonny, sometimes he can bring it to my doorstep, whenever the CCP put forth a process
Mr. King.
This is a political speech, and he said it very clear. He said,
When you wait and happen 26, we are so sorry. There's a loud music.
Where's it coming from? Where's it coming from?
All right. So as folks, we apologize for that issue right there. We sincerely apologize. It's been resolved right now. It has been resolved. So let me progress. Mr. Jai, you asked me the question, why is Cummings shocked that our people are living in this condition? And I was
No, it's not
saying,
what I asked. He said he found out that he shouldn't be wishing people happy 26 under those conditions. So my question is, when was it ever a good time to wish Liberian happy 26? Was it last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago? When was it?
that was not a question you asked me.
That's the question I asked.
No, that was not the question you asked me. So somebody can
Okay,
take
let's
that.
go
I
to Mr.
remember
Cummings.
exactly
Okay,
the
now
question
come
you
in.
asked me, and that's the question I was answering. That was not the question you asked me.
but I think, Dennis, that was just his play on the moment, trying to just bring people into a space where he can then capture them and make them think critically about what it is he's trying to spew out there. I mean, so yeah, for the past 2 years, of course, he said happy independence and he didn't think too much about it and just kind of moved on. But yeah, he's trying to drive home a certain point towards making sure that people recognize that he wants to convey that CDC is not the right government for them. And so his speech, that's what he's trying to do with every single word. That's what he's trying to do.
William King come in now because I'm from the Southeast. I've been living under those conditions. And for Mr. Cummings to realize 2020 that he had just seen this condition and then he regretting telling me happy 26 because the roads are bad, that shows some disconnect.
Can I come in there?
Yes, sir.
And look, this is why I'm saying the speech is a colossal failure. I mean, what the man is doing is just pure political pandering. You know, Mr. Cummings is not a young man. He's not a young boy. Mr. Cummings is a full-grown Liberian adult. So for his entire existence, the only time he recognizes that our people should not be complimented with July 26th is only when he's running for office, when he wants to be president. And when he sees conditions so terrible to the point that we shouldn't wish our people 26. Look, we need authentic leadership. We don't need people who pander. The issues in our country are dire. The issues in our country are serious. We need serious people to bring serious suggestions. We don't need people who pander to get votes. For almost 173 years, you just shocked that there is no road in the Southeast. that there is no road in Lofa, that there is no road in central Liberia. This is pandering to the highest level.
Look, I think
we have to call him out for that. We have to call him out for that because that's the condition our people been living. I'm from the Southeast. I never saw no road. The only time you see government people in the Southeast is to take taxes from our people. That's the only time. So when is he shot? He's the new Christopher Columbus for the Southeast now? That's the question we ask.
Can I come in, please? Dennis, let me make one quick comment.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes. The thing here is, Mr. Cummings Connie actually said that and he's not authentic. I think this speech, especially when he said he's struck to wish the people, as happy 26. I think that's authentic for you to come back and say that. That's strong leadership there to me. Some leader, even though some people think it's political, yeah, it may be political, but the fact of the matter is that he realized the condition of the people, whatsoever, and he struck to even wish them happy 26, tells me that this man conscience have hit him, that if he was the leader today, he may have done something about that, That's what I see in that last sentence on happy 26. So, Mr. Connie, I don't think this is fake. I don't think he's doing it to pander anybody, whatsoever. But I think it's authentic. He realized it, and he wants to spell it out.
So here's the deal, if I can come in. I too am from the Southeast. And so is Ja and Mr. Cooney.
And also
the person we have as president today is from the Southeast. I guarantee you 100%. If Joe were to go to the Southeast, travels the miles, the villages and the hamlet that Cummings visited, and if he wants to be honest, he will say similar words that Mr. Cummings said. And It can happen to me, it can happen to any of us. So for people to make it now political, this is a political meat he has given, that he's shocked that people are living and he should not have wished them happy Independence Day when in fact they are in this condition. If anybody visits the Southeast, they will have that same feelings that Cummings is having. And that is a reality. But to say that, because he said that, it makes him to be the new Christopher Columbus of Liberia, is complete political language that Mr. Cooney is using here. Look, that was honesty on his part to have seen the people condition and then have or develop another sense of understanding the conditions on the ground, and to also narrate it to the country is refreshing in the sense that it has given him a unique sense of understanding of the conditions our people are facing. At least for Christ's sake, the opposition leader, who was rejected by the very Liberian people, took the courage to go there and visit them and report to the Liberian people what he has seen, of which the son of the Southeast has visited after 3 years of being in power. I wish he had even gone to see the high school in his own town that is in dilapidating condition for him to do something about it. I wish he had done that so that Mr. Cooney will at least be happy. I think Cummings did the right thing. I think his speech was on point. His speech had vision in it, and his speech also speaks to the reality of the day. There can't be a better speech about the things that are happening now.
The host is drifting off topic.
Mr. C, let me.
The whole purpose. Dennis, that was the whole purpose of the speech, to get people like Anthony riled up.
Right. And I get it because it's a political speech, but here is the thing. And Mr. C, the question for you is, Mr. Cummings ran to be president of Liberia 2017. At that point, he was not aware and he was still wishing people happy 26. Mr. Cummings, since the elections, have been going other places in Liberia and has been wishing people happy 26. this, if Mr. Cummings is saying today, now I understand the problem better and I'm better prepared to be president and solve the problem, maybe he can make that connection. But to act today in 2020, after running unsuccessfully to be president, after being in the country canvassing, and this is your first time you are going to your home, and now you are shocked, this tells me that, okay, so the voters were right to reject you because you did not know. Now you just knowing the problem in Southeast. I don't think you have been to Bapolo. So maybe 2 years down the road, he's going to go to Bapolo again and be shocked. So I think Mr. Cummings should take a little more time to actually go across the country, experience what they are experiencing, and then come back and be better prepared to understand these issues and advance alternative vision.
I have a question for you, Dennis.
Yes,
Did
sir.
we do that? And Sia raised that same thing. The
That's
current
irrelevant.
president has he done that? He has not
That's
traveled
irrelevant.
Not a single political leader in Liberia has done that.
Right.
Not one.
And that's
Not
irrelevant
Not
because
one has done that. And so to be using it as an opportunity to prosecute
that's
Mr.
what I'm saying.
Cummings
It's irrelevant because
it's just political.
I'm not defending any political leader. I'm not defending We Are for going there. I told you the problem Cummings listed against We Are, he's spot on. That's what I said. Okay. I'm going to Cummings' problem now. He's shocked. He's shocked about the condition that President we say have been living. And he's just getting to know in 2020.
The reason why I asked that question,
Dennis,
the reason why I asked that question because you said that the people rejected Cummings and they accepted We Are. So the people accepted We Are, what?
I did not mention
the rejection of
Cummings bring We Are
in
in
obvious that We Are was elected. It's obvious.
That's a false equivalence.
You know that's not false equivalence. That's not false. It's implicit. That's the argument you're trying to make.
No, it's not.
Well,
because that's the binary thinking. That's the binary thinking of Liberians now. By the time you criticize opposition, it means you are pro-government. By the time you criticize,
no. I'm not saying you are pro. No, I'm not saying you're pro-government.
No. What I mean is
your train of thought.
Right. What I mean is, I'm on the speech. We have not. I mean, I think the best speech we have gave was "Beat it, driver, beat it." Since that time, we have not heard anything. So I'm not discussing We Are speech. Or whether We Are went to the South. He was supposed to go there when there was Corona. He did not go. Okay. Cummings went there during Corona. So, but that's irrelevant. We're talking about the speech and Cummings he said, it struck me as a cruel jest to have wished our people happy independence because
Cummings is not a human being to express an emotion.
The emotion is fake. Now what we're saying is political.
It's not fake. It's not fake. You know, I think it's real.
We can disagree on that.
It's
all right.
No, it can be real. It can be real, but with a purpose. And this guy has a purpose. But Dennis, do you think around Christmas we will then hear a speech where he includes in there, I was shocked that people's pots were not boiling?
No, I think Christmas he will say he was shocked that he wished people Merry Christmas because there's nothing to be merry about. He said,
that is what I see here, right? And so now you're going to bring it to Christmas, and then maybe you're going to bring it to Easter, and then you're going to carry it to another holiday. Guys, let's get serious. Let's get serious here. Let's get serious here, gentlemen. Here's the thing. The man visited the Southeast, and he expressed what he experienced. And to say, now we got you. No. Anybody who visits the Southeast, I made a point, I'm going to re-emphasize that, will express similar sentiments that Cummings has expressed. Now, does that disqualify him for him being honest about what he's saying? I mean, are there Liberians who are leaders in the country that have gone somewhere to say similar things? I would say yes. Maybe they have not made a major speech about it, so we don't know. But to say that it's like Cummings is wrong to say this. It's like Cummings is wrong to say this, and because we kept dwelling on this one question.
No, because the point you are missing here is nobody is chastising him for talking. I'm not saying is wrong for saying the roads are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not chastising him from stating that the road horrible and people are suffering. He said, how can anyone really celebrate when we have
But it's wrong for
poorly?
expressing an emotion.
No, it's not an emotion. What he's saying that I'm struck that I can tell anybody happy 26 because there's nothing 26 about. So I
but that's an emotion.
Comment 10 years ago, if you told somebody happy 26, will you be okay? All I'm pointing out is the roads have been bad ever since my father was a little boy. But at that time, Mr. Cummings was wishing happy 26 all along, or he didn't really care. He was only caring now because he wants to be president.
You really say that
how many times
do you really mean to say that he didn't really care? Do you really mean to say that maybe he didn't really care?
Did he wish
to make that argument or ask that question, Dennis?
Had he gone to the southeast then to see what he saw?
That's the point.
We are wasting our time on this one.
Yeah, but
this is a 14-page speech, and we're wasting our time on this one issue.
He visited the southeast before, and you wish these people happy 26.
The point is, my final point.
This is his first time visiting the southeast, I would think.
Why?
Why not the southeast? Why you just going there?
Why not? When was the last time Dennis Ja or Kuni went to the southeast?
You see there?
When was the last time Edward Doe went to the southeast? When was the last time Anthony Sear went to the southeast? When was the last time?
Yes. We are discussing Cummings, stop deflecting. But the point I'm trying to make, my final
point. Dennis' question raised this issue as to Cummings have visited Southeast prior to this visit.
Excuse me, Eddie. Excuse me. If we use Mr. Cummings' standard, if we accept it as authentic, if we accept it as genuine, then trust me, we will never wish any Liberia any happy holiday in Liberia. Because no condition. Yeah, that's what you want us to say.
And that is the determination anybody can make. I agree with that. I agree with that.
We now wish nobody Christmas, and that's the fakeness and the pandering nature of that point that you made.
But we shouldn't be wishing anybody Christmas and Happy New Year.
To be realistic about their feeling does not make it fake.
No,
the conditions our people in down there,
it's not being realistic.
It's deplorable. For somebody to have seen the first hand and say, "Wow, these people in the condition," and I said, "Happy Independence Day" when there's nothing happening.
And most likely it's his first time saying that.
It's a realization of what the president is saying. Expressive. I think it's the right thing to do.
Hey, Anthony, did Alexander Cummings win any counties in the southeast when he ran?
He didn't win. He didn't win anything.
I can't tell, but I would say even if he went there before, maybe he didn't see what he's saying he saw recently. All right.
I don't think he went there before.
He saw worse this time. That's all I can say.
What I'm saying is that I think that politically he made sure that he mentioned a lot of the southeast counties and areas, because he knows that that's where the political battle is going to be won. So he's planting seeds for people to think twice about voting for President Weah.
I don't think that is the case. He was not addressing Southeasterners. And, he was addressing the nations about his visit. All right. So he wanted all Liberians to see what he saw.
The man is pondering like Trump pondering to the
Okay, let me read his words, right? He said, how can anyone really celebrate when we have managed ourselves so poorly? Why should anyone celebrate seeing that the hope we once inspired is now fading? The moon shining star is dimmed, and the dream is becoming a nightmare. That's why he said we shouldn't celebrate. But Mr. Sear, let's make progress.
You are in charge. Let's make progress.
All right. So now,
but I was saying, even if he went there before. Who's listening to Asia again?
So now, Mr. Cummings cited a lot of problems, right? And let me come to you first, Mr. Cooney. Mr. Cummings cited problems that are in the country. I want to get your take because you are saying recitation. What's wrong? Those problems are you, like Mr. Cummings and me, acknowledging those same problems that Mr. Cummings, in your word, recited.
Although some of those problems are there. Some of those problems are true.
Yeah, but you are dismissing. You are becoming dismissive of the problem that why should somebody recite them, or why should somebody list those problems? Why
because Because even a third grade child can now reach. Our problems are so profound to the point that even a third grade child can recite Liberia problem. We don't need a recitation. We need a plan of action as to how to fix our country.
No, but I disagree, Mr. Cooney. Before the first step in solving a problem is to be able to realize that you have a problem.
But then
what we have seen from the government is like everything is going, Mr. President, is being called the bar road medicine, right? He's being called all these names to show that he's, hold on. You're very uneasy because you, so right now, so it means that President Weah or anybody in government will not list the same problem that Mr. Cummings listing. So it means they are in denial of the issues that are actually happening. So Mr. Cummings identifying them at this time, I think that's a plus.
But what I'm saying, no, it's not a plus because like I say, even our problems are so profound that even a third grade student in Liberia can identify the problems in Liberia. You're not going to give a credit to somebody for identifying the problem. They are so profound, they are so common. What I'm saying is we need solutions to those problems. For example, Mr. Cummings talked about corruption. Who in Liberia doesn't know about corruption? Do we need to keep talking about corruption?
Yes.
Our 15 years old when I started hearing about corruption. We need a plan as to how to challenge the issue of corruption. Mr. Cummings talked about the divisiveness among the Liberian people. He talked about, like, I'm going there now, you're not going to stop me. He talked about the country Congo. He talked about this, he talked about that. But the man even failed to address the current division that is in our country. Home-based Liberian versus diaspora-based Liberian. He even failed to address that. There is a proposition that is going for vote. I'm kissing with 3 months from election. He did not even articulate his position on that proposition or the position of the CPP. These are issues. We have to recite it, we need to be together, we need to be one. We tired hearing that.
Can I come in, please?
Thank you. Mr. Doe, before you come in, Mr. Cooney, you also talk about drawing a sharp contrast. I think by listing of the problem that the current administration has not listed, I think that in itself is a sharp contrast. Let me go to Mr. Doe and then we can open our phone lines. The callers are banging on our doors.
Yes, Mr. Cunning. You know, I was laughing over here because you said all these problems that Mr. Cummings listed, they are old problems. No, Mr. Cummings listed some new problems. He pointed out about the institution, break down the institutions by the Weah government. That's a new problem. He pointed out also health and education. That's a new problem. Let me read for you what he said. He said, additionally, we see the government systematically break down and destroy the integrity institutions created to fight corruption by either underfunding them or staffing them with incompetent loyalists. Integrity institutions are receiving far less resources now than they were when the government took over. Comparing the approved budget of fiscal 2017 to 2018 to the draft appropriation for fiscal year 2020-2021, we see that PPCC draft budget has been reduced from 1.4 million to 752K. Letty from 553K to 220K. General Auditing Commission from 5.3 million to 4.7K. LAC from 2.3 million to 1.3K. So the point here is these are new problems. These are new problems that this government created. Healthcare, education, they're not investing in that. They're not funding those things. They're cutting those the funds for those. So those are new problems.
That the revenue is there. The assumption is that the revenue is there and the government is taking deliberate action.
There. The revenue, it is there.
Okay, so let's take your argument. The budget of the Republic of Liberia is approved by the national legislature that is dominated by the CPP. It is the budget that defines the priority of the country. Who controls the legislature? The legislature is controlled by the CPP. It's not controlled by Weah.
No. May I before we go to our callers?
It is the CPP. Hold on. It is the CPP. It is the CPP that is approving these budgets from the future.
Another new problem. Let me give you another new problem. The wage harmonization.
That's a new problem.
That's a new problem too. Mr. Cummings did not mention that, but wage harmonization, that's a huge problem that this government has created.
All of these things are approved by the opposition in the legislature. They control the legislature.
Cooney and Edward, may I come in? Mr. Cooney, you being very political here, and I like that. And I like that because myself, I can do that. We all can do that. We have the ability to do so. From the onset, you said that the responsibility of the opposition is to hold the government accountable. How can you hold government accountable without telling them the problems that they are not finding solutions for, the problems that they are compounding, the problems that they are quadrupling? That is how, or one of the ways, you hold a government accountable. And Mr. Cummings did that in this speech very cleverly and concisely by talking about how the healthcare institutions are failing. Edward was citing budgets earlier. Now, you want to talk about, oh, budgets are dropping. Who drafts the budget? The executive drafts the budget. The executive make her priorities. It is the budget that tells you how the government wants to govern. And if the government of the day is reducing the budget for education, it tells you the government is not placing emphasis on education, or not making education and healthcare and the other things for which they have reduced the budget. That means they're not making those things priority, thereby dropping the living standard of our people. And that's where Cummings is coming in and saying, hey, your priorities are upside down and you need to get them straight. And I think he's holding the government accountable by listing these things, and that's how you hold the government accountable. I don't see how you can count that to not be doing what he's supposed to do.
Before you come in,
Mr. Priorities of the country are defined in the national budget approved by the legislature. The legislature is controlled by Mr. Cummings' political parties. They are defining the national agenda. You don't want to admit that. George,
Mr. Cooney,
the country.
Mr. Cooney, you are separating the dance from the dancer. When we talk about government, we are talking about three branches of government. So I don't think the criticism here about the bar road is on, even though Mr. Cummings stressed leadership, but I don't think it's on the president alone. But that's the real-led government. Sometimes he says that. And that government is made up of three branches.
Yeah, because he want to minimize the role of the opposition that is in parliament that are approving these programs.
The box stop of the president. But let me bring in this last one before we bring our callers in. The last one.
We have to go to our caller. What I see here is Cooney is not celebrating the bar road medicine man today. Why? He forgot that bar road medicine. Cummings just told you about the bar roads in the southeast. I thought you should be celebrating the bar road medicine man can't even face it in the southeast.
May I remind the distinguished gentleman
that is housing medicine. They are opening new houses in ground from cash to modern houses.
Mr. Cooney, is that
modern houses?
Oh,
I gotta check
we'll
that
bring you out. Here's one last thing.
You tell
some of our callers.
Mr.
Cooney. This is what Mr. Cummings said. Why countries of the world are struggling with one pandemic in Liberia, we are confronted with three: the poverty pandemic, the rape pandemic, and the COVID-19 pandemic. I think we have even more pandemics than that, but we'll leave it like that and bring in our callers. They have been very patient. Mr. Sia, can you, I hope we don't have the same muting problem.
I hope I can try here.
Yes, callers, we are trying to bring you in, but we have some technical issues here.
Yeah, the same thing is happening.
Okay, so let's go to the pandemic while Mr. Sia tried to fix that issue. Just call back into the program without muting it. It will work this time.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to the three pandemics, and after that we can poverty pandemic, rape pandemic, and COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Cooney, your take: are those pandemic real, or you want to say isn't it reciting them?
Look, those are all political conjecture. We can go to opposition pandemic. The opposition pandemic, the opposition pandemic is a pandemic that don't see anything positive in Liberia until they rule. Once they rule, then there is no, that's opposition pandemic.
So there are 4 pandemics.
There is nothing positive about our country until they ascend to leadership. Everything about our country got to be demonized. Our country got to be demonized. That's a pandemic. So if you're talking about pandemic, that's a pandemic. There is a pandemic of the opposition in bullying other people. You got member of the opposition attacking an entire tribe. It's a pandemic. So there are a lot of pandemic in our country. So I'm not going to dignify that. They got 3 pandemic. They're laying our opposition pandemic too. That pandemic,
Mr. Doe,
is in them that will not stop at anything until they get power by hook or by crook. It's a pandemic in our country.
Opposition pandemic on top of the 3. That's what Kuni is saying. Your take.
Well, and Mr. Cummings is right to identify the 3 epidemics. They do exist in Liberia currently. And I will add a 4th one that, I would say a poverty epidemic, whatsoever. You see, so...
He has that. Poverty epidemic, rape epidemic, COVID-19 pandemic.
And that was one epidemic I identified in one of my writings. I can't think of it right now. But yes, there are so many epidemics going on in Liberia right now. Those 3 epidemics he identified, they are very good. They do exist in Liberia. And the poverty, rape, and COVID. So Mr. Cummings is right on point on that.
All right. Let's bring in our caller. And I know the drop off, but I recognize that Wilton Kettle was the first. So let's see. Wilton, you're live. 1 minute.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And another pandemic I would like to add to you guys' pandemic is the deception pandemic, the lies pandemic in Liberia is too much. So let me talk about the speech a little bit. Let's be honest here. When Cummings was doing the election, Cummings went in the southeastern region and he was putting harm on, he was told on the heads of people because of bad rules. And the president said that the southeastern region, that's where I got a problem with my brother Anson. The president flagged this issue out. It was the first time in my life in Liberia to know that our southeastern part of the country is cut off 6 months from the rest of the country. 6 months before that, we don't even know what in Liberia. The president was the one that brought it out. The president was the one that negotiated and lobbied for money to fix that rule. So when Cummings come out and talk about that, it's just and I hear my brother saying, biomedical is not doing nothing on that road, and he makes my family sick because there are road construction going on over there. And the fact that roads will not take 2 days to be built, we should also understand that this problem that Alexander Cummings said since 1847, there's nothing to say happened in independence. It's true. The reason is since 1847 up to 2017. Since 1847 up to 2017, that part of the country being cut off. It was only recognized by His Excellency Dr. George Manuel Weah, who flagged this issue that those people, they are Liberians too. So for Cummings to come out and put the tablet at the foot of the president is saddening. It's very saddening. And we should not even, the speech was a reputation from the political party. All along, it's a reputation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Let's go to Ato Wiado.
Oh, thank you, John. Thank you for the audience. I've been following very closely. But let you see, the defeat in the country relevant to how we politics is so abound to the extent that people, I'm sorry to say, call it, people are coming, who just coming into the system, and instead of him playing a card right, he thinks he can bomb off people, even the youth, bomb off in the youth. The youth, their eyes are shining because the comment that Cummings made about the pros in the southeastern region, I just traveled to, at least George Weah gave me a pathway. Cummings was told in a hammer. He was told in a hammer. Some other those things, when last you went to Nukuta? When last you went to Nukuta?
I thought, let me stop you. Cummings
Yeah.
being told, hammer was just something.
Cummings was told, Cummings was told in the hammer because why? He doesn't want. He doesn't want that mentality that way back when the people used to talk about how he wanted to be. That's the kind of presidency he wants to carry in Liberia. But we say no. No, you would disagree, George. Let me learn. You give me the time. Let me learn.
Yeah.
Again. To come on now when this man was honored, was giving Liberian flower by Eddie Johnson Salif. Right? By the time they honor him, he came back to the States. Did he go to the county, Maryland? He did not, because he cared less about the Southeastern region. Now that he is making these one-ton remarks about George, we are putting everybody on the government, when he even talking about military harassing the youth, when he taking Jaga Korba on every trip after inciting the youth to create all type of violence in the country. Is that kind of leadership that what we are expecting? You produce something. You are a CPP leader.
Dennis,
you yourself would not say that thing. When you go around, you would not say that. You would not say that.
It's not making any sense there. Let me comment.
Please write down quickly. We want to bring in more callers. We have a long list here. Let me go to Desmond Tutu Finlay. Mr. Finlay, you are live.
How are you doing, Mr. John?
I'm good. Guys, please write down the comments or the questions so we can get through a lot of them.
This is a very interesting conversation. Interesting conversation today. I'm enjoying the firebrand over here. Today, by listening to the conversation, I can tell where Mr. Cummings lies. Mr. Cummings is playing something very duplicitous here. He's pandering while blaming another man for pandering. It's very funny. He's pandering while blaming a politician, not even a pastor. Cummings is a politician, he's not a pastor, not a priest, not nothing. He's blaming a politician for pandering for votes. And that's what politicians do. Their speech is not a speech about advocacy. He wasn't advocating for nothing. He was a speech criticizing the status quo. What in the status quo that Mr. Cummings wants to see plans for the future? Where does that lie? This is a political speech. There's nothing. The fact that he even mentioned hope is some gravitas to you. You should be happy about that. This is a political attack speech. Have you seen one of Trump PAC ads on TV? The political PAC ad. You seen one thing about it? It's not about Trump. Just went to Pennsylvania where Mr. Cummings lived, and said that the people in the suburb will not build. He will make sure they don't have low-income housing in the suburb no more. If that's not pandering for votes, I don't know what pandering is. Politicians pander all the time. The fact that we're here to discuss it is even trivial. Why you want hope from a political speech? What are you looking for hope in a political speech? You want hope? Go build hope. Go for an advocate group. Go up your NGO. That's what you do. You're pandering to people on the phone air right now. You're pandering at the same time blaming another person for pandering. This is insulting. You can't be pandering at the same time telling another man for pandering. And the people that are on the phone calling the first man, we are do. I don't know what you expect from we are do at this point.
I tell you.
The other guy talking about Cummings were in it. The other guy talking about Cummings were in a hammer. I'm not even here for Cummings. I'm not here for Cummings. I'm not here for Cummings. But Edward, let me just finish my point. I'm not here for Cummings. I will not vote for Cummings in the next election. But the point I want to make here is this: it's completely funny to see Mr. Cummings here pandering and blaming somebody for pandering. And I'll finish with this, right? And I'll finish with this: the roads that you see constructed in the southeast, they're being constructed. I've been in Liberia. I was in Liberia for the last 20 months until April of last year. I spent time there. The roads in Liberia, nobody on that platform now can tell me that Georgia negotiated the roads to be constructed from Grand Juliet to River G County, from the Kavala to River Chess. Georgia didn't negotiate none of those things. If the president negotiated that, his job, right? And it's not Ellis Cummings' job to build road there. His job is to tell everybody why the road's not built. So if you want new construction, Mr. Cummings, you want new construction, go ahead and start building it. You want advocacy, go for advocacy group. You want NGO, go build one. Don't expect him to do that for you. That's not his job. His job is to be elected. That's how you get elected in Africa. You tell them what they don't want. You tell them what's not happening.
Thank you.
I'll go back and listen here. I'm done.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Hassan.
Yes, how are you guys?
Wonderful.
Mr. Coney, you must be really frustrated right now. I can tell you are in the wrong country because people on the panel, people who call in, don't even know what alternative means. If I'm an independent, I don't have a party, and then I want to listen to Cummings. What can I take home? What is the alternative there for me? It's so a shame that people don't know politics is about come and tell me what will be on my kitchen table. What are you giving me? What I would take home to my people. So people don't even know what alternative mean if you are a politician. And then you're talking about Martin Luther King and Mandela. Martin Luther King is not a politician. You cannot take a speech and compare it to a political speech. Martin Luther King don't get political speech. Mandela, when Mandela was fighting, he was not giving political speech until he became a politician. It's a shame to see Liberians. You know, I get people from other countries listening to you guys, and they're asking me, does Liberian people don't know what alternative means as a politician? You hear the difference between
you're confusing me.
Look, Anthony can't even articulate alternative. You say, oh, the main speech. What you doing for me? Don't tell me about what in 1947. What would I go take to the kitchen table? Give me my bread and butter. What are you telling me? That's why I want to know if I'm an independent. What are you telling me?
Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
It breaks my heart to see. It breaks my heart to see people cannot even articulate that. It hurts. It's hurtful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is Hassan really saying? He's all over the place. I don't know what his point is.
Let me go to Mr. Casale Double. Maybe you know what his point is. Mr. Double. Because before the show started, we play a song, Don't Bang Bang Me. So you guys be very clear, we will not take any bang bang. Mr. Casale Double, you are live. 1 minute, sir. Casale is kind of busy. I hear baby in the background. Mr. Amos George, my own Atlanta man. You are live.
Yes. I got a specific question for Mr. Coney.
Okay.
He's complaining about Mr. Cummings' speech. My first question to Mr. Coney is that yes, analyzing it. But I don't know, he becoming very partisan because analysts, I don't know, but not leave it that way. But what I want to know from Mr. Coney first thing, everything that the opposition saying is lie. Let me give him the line. But since President Weah came to power, how many private sector jobs that President Weah has created, and how many cases of rapes and murder that the government has prosecuted? And if the opposition is lying, if President Weah is interested in education, in health, why is he cutting the budget of those areas down? And the last one, I want to ask Mr. Coney to analyze this for me. All what he's seeing today, do he know how the legislature and the House of Senate function in Liberia? The president pro tem is from CDC. The House Speaker is from CDC. Do he know how those organizations function before he want to blame the opposition for everything that's going wrong in the system? Thank you. Let me leave it right there.
Good question. Let me go back to Casale Double, and then we can bring in our panelist. Mr. Coney has his hand full. Mr. Casale Double, you are live.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jah. And thanks to Focus on Africa, the host, and thanks to your guest. Mr. Coney, the first thing, Mr. Jah, I want you people to know is that the speech being made by Mr. Cummings was not any kind of a policy speech. Remember that Mr. Cummings just came from the southeast where he almost got killed. Why he and his team almost got killed. They were held on a hostage for hours. All right? Mr. Cummings' speech was to revive the hope of his people, of his camp, and tell them, I am still alive, I am strong, and I can withstand any pressure. Do not be afraid. It was just a means of reviving the hope of his people. Remember, campaign hasn't started yet. Mr. Cummings, like Mr. Coney was saying in studio, Mr. Cummings did not tell the people, election is just 2020 closer. He did not tell what he's going to do. Campaign hasn't started yet. So Mr. Cummings is not going to go out there and tell the people, we're going to do this when we are elected. He's going to be in violation of the campaign law. That one thing to take into consideration. Okay? And two, Mr. Cummings' statement was to give that hope. There was hope at the end of the speech. We shouldn't give up. There is light at the end of the tunnel. He said it is in his speech at the end. And so for you to come here and say that Mr. Cummings is just reciting and repeating things, Mr. Cummings is telling you things, first-hand issues. Let's identify the issues, and then we can know how to solve it. Remember in 2016, when we started campaigning, it was Joseph Boakai alone who prioritized roads, and agriculture. The CDC government had nothing. Guess what? When we won the election, the people who had nothing to offer the people stole everything that Boakai said in his speech, in his campaign message. That's exactly what they are doing. So Mr. Cummings said what he had to say. It was not a political speech where he had to give you the way forward. He is telling you, his supporters, that I am strong, I am alive, and thank God that I am back, I am strong, and that we can withstand whatever pressure comes our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Kuna, you want to start first? Because I think you got some news there.
Got a lot of latches from the
courthouse. Yeah.
I know Asani is very happy.
I'm a happy man.
So let me start with the last caller. Let me start with my brother Double. Look, it is completely laughable for people to talk about Joseph Boakai plan for the country. Joseph Boakai being in government for 47 years, 12 years as vice president in the last government, to talk about his plans. I mean, it's not something that even worth discussing at this point. If Joseph Boakai had rural plan, if he had agricultural plan, he had 12 years to influence the government to do that. Look, my assessment of Mr. Cummings' speech here, like I said, the CPP can take it with a grain of salt. I'm just saying we're in a political process. And in the political process, we are 3 months away from elections. And what people expect to hear are contrasting views as to where our country should be. If the CCP feels that they're not supposed to do that, that's fine. I'm not imposing it on them. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying the people are, if all of the problems that Mr. Cummings cited, if they are true, then the people should be yearning for an alternative. And the people need to be told this is the alternative. If people feel that he shouldn't do that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And to my brother who say I'm pandering, the question is, pandering to whom? I'm analyzing. Maybe I'm pandering to FOL. You see, he agreed with me, but accuses me of the same crime. He did agree that Cummings is pandering. There ain't nothing wrong with a politician pandering, but when you pander, we call you out. That's what we do. That's what we do. And for my own pandering, I don't know. Maybe I'm pandering to FOL, but I'm being called here to analyze the actions of politicians. And that's what I'm doing. And to my other brother, we're talking about different people calling, they're talking about kitchen table issues. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Mr. Cummings is saying that there is nothing on the Liberian people table right now. The CDC government is so bad that there is nothing on the table. I'm simply saying, tell me how you will put something on my table. That's the argument I'm making. It's not just enough to tell me that there is nothing on my table. So just tell me that your table dry. Somebody steal what's supposed to be on your table. Somebody stole your bread. I want to hear, how do you restore what you think the people stole from me? And that is the duty of politicians. We keep saying My brother Anthony keep hearing, what politician does that in Liberia? Our perspective should not be limited to Liberia. We're in the United States here. Joe Biden, anytime you open his mouth, Trump is destroying people's health care, but I will restore the affordable health care. So for that, I'm making choices. Trump is engaging in racial bigotry. He's not taking responsibility, but this is what I will do to take responsibility. So people are making decisions on that. You know, if Mr. Cummings don't want to do that, if the CPP don't want to do that, it's their prerogative. It's their prerogative. I'm just giving them an honest advice that in a final analysis, the people will want to know this government that you say that is so terrible, the people will want to know what you will do differently. If it is not their political calling, that's fine. And on the issue of budget, reduce budget, this and that, look, I agree. The president originates the budget. But under our constitution, the legislature has the power of the press. They approve. They define the priorities of the country. And I don't know why many Liberians don't want to admit that. Our legislature is controlled by the opposition. We're not running a dictatorship. If they feel that the budget for integrated institutions are being diminished, it is the function of the opposition to restore that. We keep hearing the same thing. It's the same way the opposition, they drove out Cabinet Janet, but they want to put it at the foot of the president. It were opposition senators that voted Cabinet Janet out. It's not Joria that went to the Senate and voted Cabinet Janet out. But they want to be so deceptive, take the blame away from the opposition and keep saying the government. Our budget is approved by the national legislature. They define the spending priorities of the country. The president will not spend a penny that is not approved by the legislature. So if they fail to do their job, they fail to do their job. And so these are the issues.
Thank you.
Can I come in and rebut some of that, what he said?
Let's bring him. Mr. Doe, please respond to the callers first, then you can rebut.
Yeah. First and foremost, I want to respond to one of the callers that made the argument that Mandela and Martin Luther King speeches were not political speeches. I disagree with that caller. Martin Luther King and Mandela speeches were political speeches. If you look at the entire civil rights movement, it was a movement that was working towards, political and social equality. So most of Mandela and Martin Luther King speeches were geared towards that political aspect and the social justice aspect. So for that caller to say that those speeches were not political, they were. Now, responding to the caller prior to that, the caller nailed it very well that Mr. Connie seems to be much more biased in his arguments and repetitive. But there's one thing I want to correct Mr. Connie about. Mr. Connie, in the Senate, Senator Chair is the pro tem, and in the House, Chambers is the Speaker. And for anything to hit the floor of both houses, these two people have to approve of it. So they have control. CDC have control of the House and the Senate. So yes, the executive branch can do something about a budget. They can influence the budget from the legislative branch of government because they have two people, two of the members of the party that heads the Senate and the House. So I just want to correct you on that. Anything else? No, I don't have anything else. I just want to make those two corrections. That's it. But the caller that hit on Mr. Connie, they all were right about some of the comments they made about Mr. Connie arguments.
All right, if I can come in here, I'm glad that Mr. Cooney received some good latches from the callers, but two of the callers too, came after me, and I think that was brilliant on your part. My good friend Ketter, he came after me. He said he doesn't like what I had to say. Kera, you don't have to like what I have to say, you know. But that's your opinion. Kera said that one of the epidemics is lies, but he pulled the lies squarely on the opposition. And I think that was disingenuous on his part. If there is any group that lies more than the other, I will say that's the government. The government lie a whole lot. The opposition too, the opposition bloc, yes, there are a lot of lies there, but he sounded to me that he was accusing of the opposition bloc of being the only one lying. All right. And I think the opposition and the ruling party, they both do lie. And I believe that the opposition, the ruling party lie a whole lot. And I can give some examples. Mr. Colin talked about Joseph Boakai being in government for 40 plus years. I agree with Mr. Colin. Joseph Boakai, 40 plus years at his age, is still running to be president in our country. This is one of the problems that we have. This is one of the problems that we have. For somebody to be looking up to Joseph Boakai for leadership at this time, at his age, I will get, the day I reach an age, I will not be asking for turnkey job in the first place, especially with the enormous opportunity he's had. He has had to work in our government, and he running to be president after serving as vice president for 12 years, and he could not help to build roads in the Southeast, and this is a guy we can trust now for roads? Really? That is preposterous. And I couldn't agree with Mr. Cooney. I hope he's happy now that we have some agreement here. But on his
and that's why I disagree with the two of you. It's
right,
like you are leaving the real issue and beating on an old man who wants to retire, even though Lobo and the rest of the people want him in the ring. The old man wants to relax and go to Foya and eat some tabagi. So leave the old man alone.
That's so I also agree with Janice, and Sia, definitely. I'm kind of surprised you beat Mr. Boakai, because the fact of the matter is that a lot of followers, Mr. Boakai still got a lot of followers, and these followers want him in the race. So I think it's his call to serve his country, as old as he is, whenever he wants to. So you should not deny him from that. That's his democratic rights, constitutional rights to serve his country when he's called upon. So if followers are calling upon him, he should be able to respond and serve, what his followers want him to do.
Thank you. Let's conclude on this speech.
Already dismissing the old man. Cummings is already dismissing the old man, declaring the old man not entity in the process.
No.
I mean, when he said that is not true.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
That is not true. Mr. Cooney, stop doing that.
He will make George Weah a one-term president. So he's already
presumed. No, he did not say I will. No.
Yeah, he said
CPP. He said a CPP.
He did not say I will.
He said a CPP.
The speech is that I will make George Weah.
No, that is not true. I have
the speech right here. Go and read that speech.
It's right here. He did not say I will.
He said a CPP will make George Weah.
He didn't in that speech. He said it in other public utterances.
All right. We're talking about the speech.
Connie, you gotta go read that speech.
So, Mr. Cooney, this time you want to leave the speech and talk about something else?
You let the speech. You're going to George Weah. You're going all over the place. So why can't you?
All right.
The speech was not written in the first person term.
Let's conclude on the speech. Let's conclude on the speech. Our time is fast spent. Overall, when I look in the speech, I think that Mr. Cummings was too, I don't want to say denigrating, but too harsh on the president. It's like everything is almost like an insult. I believe that when he accused the current government of inciting the youth, I think they all do it on both sides. So they do that. I mean, everything was leadership, the president, until, because we want to bring, and Mr. Cummings could hit something like that, and I will throw my analyst here some cookies. decentralization. Those are some of the vision that we want to see Mr. Cummings espousing, something that is different. Because throughout the speech, it was the president, the president, the president, the president. If you take one bad president or a president in a bad system and you replace him with a good president in a bad system, we get the same result. So I see Mr. Cummings put everything on president or leadership without talking about how we can make some system changes that will bring about lasting changes. Another thing I saw in the speech I don't like, and I always see that, Mr. Cummings is quoting Albert Einstein in Liberia. Come on now. He said, Albert Einstein said we cannot solve problems. Is there nobody in Liberia or Africa to quote? You quoting Einstein? If you can't have someone to quote me. Mr. Cummings, you have used even the examples of FOL about how we think that issues of this can be addressed. Here at FOL, we teach Liberian history. So when you are talking about divisiveness, point at something that people can look at. And I said this from the beginning. Point at something that people can look at has some glimmer of hope. Don't just say, oh, I have hope. FOL is teaching Liberian history, and we come here, you learn. Okay, we are teaching about our ethnic groups. We are teaching about religion, and all these things are taking place. So Mr. Cummings shouldn't just raise the problem. Be able to point at something that people can look at and say, yes, we can follow this example. And again, I'm going to give the Bong Mines example. Everything president shows that Mr. Cummings and the CPP, they just want to be president and do the same thing. They are not after system changes. They are only after changing the leadership, changing the head. And they want us to believe that when that is done, problem will be solved and we'll be walking on cloud. That's how I look at the speech.
Well, this is how I look at the speech, Mr. Ja. And first and foremost, I disagree with you by saying that the speech was all about blaming the We administration. Let me read one sentence for you in a speech.
Yeah, we all read the speech. Just come out with
one sentence. No, I want to point to that. I can't just say, I want to read it out directly, direct quote. He said, the CPP cannot suggest that all of the problems we face today are the making of this administration. Bam. He is saying that, listen, all these problems
but he didn't point at anything else. That statement was just those are just platitudes and aspirations.
No, but he's saying that all the
Edward is concluding, and you guys are hijacking my man.
Okay, go ahead, Edward.
All these problems are listed are not the problems that are caused by this administration. Right. The raw issue that Cummings pointed to, that's not the problem that was caused by this administration.
No, corruption. Everything is administration. That's my point. I'm not talking about administration. He's blaming presidency. He's not talking about system change.
But that's we are presidency. Administration that is under him. The buck stops with him. When he says the administration, we are against that administration.
I agree.
Okay, but then he doesn't have to use the word president. You know, he does not have to use the word president before you know that he's referring to the president.
My point is, his thing is everything is the president, leadership, administration. I'm saying it's not the only issue. If you replace a bad leader with a good leader and the system is still a corrupt system, a bad system that look only to Monrovia for all our solutions, you're not going to do well. So I want Mr. Cummings to look little, in a broader sense to identify this issue, not just administration or leadership or president. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying. He's saying that, listen, most of these problems are not created by this administration. So now, if you talk about decentralization, whatsoever, that's a new, entire different argument, And I don't think this speech was about to address decentralization. That's not what the speech set out to do. That's not what the speech set out to do. Let us respect the speech for its merit, what it set out to do. We should not give it something else that it was not set out to do. And that's exactly what you're doing, Dennis.
Okay.
Can I come in?
Let William come in first before you. If you speak after Doe, then it will be too much fire. William.
Thank you very much. I kind of look at this speech seriously from maybe a bird's eye view. What I see in this speech is I think that you have a political candidate that is trying to, I think, rebirth or re-engineer or retweak his approach to Liberian politics. And what I see here is a different side. I think Alexander Cummings now is becoming a little bit more aggressive, and he's trying to build his muscles with some of the rhetoric that he's using, because his tone now, if you notice, is more confrontational. So that is something that we didn't see in the past from him. And he has a long runway. He has about 2 years to give the people a convincing argument that he's going to be either the standard bearer or the next presidential candidate. And I think that's what he's doing right now. So we got to see if it's going to work, if the people are going to buy it, because all those problems he mentioned were definitely in existence. But the way he brings it up, I don't think I've ever seen him bring it up like this before, but I could be wrong.
But William, you are saying he's developing muscles now. So how did you describe the old Cummings?
The old Cummings, when he made some comments, you could tell it was maybe more of a Western style criticism, right? Versus now, what he does is more of a flexible kind of tone. It's more a little bit aggressive. I mean, I haven't seen him write or talk about this in this way. Most of the time when he speaks, he may talk about, okay, some of the solutions, some of the things he believes that the government, some of the steps that he should be taking. But right now in this one, he doesn't give any recommendations. He's just straight to the criticism level. And that's something that we haven't seen from him in the past. But I may be mistaken. But I see he's maybe taking on more of the façon de faire in Liberia on how we engage politics, which was a little bit of confrontational.
And I will tell you, because he has gone to the Southeast.
William, so he's throwing some punches, and I think he should do that more. And because that's how the game is played in Liberia. If you can't play like that, you stand no chance, and that is a reality that anybody should agree with.
Well, he has 2.5 years.
That is true.
So he's building this muscle, and he's kind of putting this fuel out there, right? Yeah. I think that's what it is. Dennis?
No, I'm saying the reason, you could be right, your observation, because he had gone to the Southeast, where, over there, you're playing soccer, you got to play on the sand. That's a whole different game. Okay, so you need a little bit muscle. Even over there, they beat you and put sand in your mouth. They call it government garage.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. Mr. Kune, overall, the speech, let's conclude.
Well, I mean, I still maintain my assessment of the speech is a colossal failure. The speech has no vision, provide no direction. It's a whining speech, elementary recitation of Liberia's problems. And I still maintain that political parties have an obligation to provide contrasting vision for the country. It's not just enough to whine. And this is probably our third time discussing major decisions taken by the CPP. And anytime we come here, they say, no, it's not yet time. It's not yet time. Somebody talk about, the campaign not open here, the man. There is no campaign law that says you can't articulate your party's vision. There is no law against that. So basically what I'm saying here is that the recitation of these problems that we have is not just enough. These problems, some of them I agree with, but we need solutions. We need people to provide us. My friend was talking about the kitchen table issue. Certain areas food is off the table. Tell us how we will get the food on the table. Let's reduce it to the individual level. You don't have a job in the home. It is now hope when you just tell your children, don't worry, we'll get through it. When you're not going out there looking for a job, when you're not in job training, but you just say, look, you just get hope. Basically, what I'm saying, there is action lacking here. There is political action lacking here. And they can take it, they can leave it, but it's just my assessment. Because I believe that the political process should be for the competition of ideas. It must be for the competition of solutions. You can't just tell us about corruption. Tell me what you're going to do about corruption. You can't tell me about all the rape cases. Tell me how you're going to handle rape cases. You can't tell me about infrastructure. Tell me how you. This may sway people to your camp. It may sway people to your camp. But every time you speak, you say, "Oh, we didn't reach that year. We didn't reach that year." People are making their calculations as to who to vote for in this election. And just the final point. I wanted to keep this point for my closing, but let me just put it out there. I may not have the time to close. For some of us.
So there was a closing argument.
Yeah, you make your closing.
We believe that the issue in our country is not just the change of president. For each time the CCP speaks, they speak like the only problem we have is the president. Once we remove that president and we put another president, the thing will stop. I've said here repeatedly, we changed Tobo, we changed Doe, we changed Taylor, Ellen Seth, we still got those same problems. And that's the point you're talking about. System change, decentralization. These are all bold ideas that political parties need to bring together to rally Liberians around. They're not whining and every day about, oh, they think bad. Y'all put me there, I will make it right. You start changing the Liberian people and we'll not let you get away with it.
Mr. Sear, at the end of every speech, there is a form of call to action. At the end of all this that Cummings have said, what do you see as the call to action? What does Alex Cummings want the Liberian people to do?
Very simple. Alex Cummings wants the Liberian people to vote for a CPP candidate. You know,
for what?
Mr. Cooney has missed the essence of the speech. He does not get what the speech was intended for. I maintain that this was a political speech intended to tell Liberian people about their condition they're facing and how the captain in charge, at some point in the speech, he said, the ship is sinking. Yep. The ship is sinking. At some point in the speech, he said it. Now, what he's doing there is that we have a captain who is captaining this ship. This ship is sinking because his skills are not good enough. And so, to answer your question, Mr. Jah, he's trying to tell the Liberian people, vote for a CPP candidate and you will start seeing things getting better. Now, something you said about system, and Mr. Cooney also talked about that we want to see precedent change. Let us face the reality yet, my fellow Liberians. Presidents in Liberia, in Africa, carry enormous power. If we get a president today who will put their foot down and say, this is, we will change the system will be changed because they appoint almost everybody at all the agencies that are used to run the government. They appoint people. So if they want to see the whole country change, it can happen. That is a fact. I know Mr. Cooney is shaking his head, but that is a fact.
Yeah, but Mr. Sear, that is the fact. So when you are, those are the bold ideas you should come with to rally people. Say, anyway, let's leave it right there and get our concluding statement so we can end it with the time.
No, I got to respond to that question you asked, Mr. Sear. I want to respond to that question quickly.
Okay, respond to that question and make your closing.
Mr. Cummings made a lot of call to action, comments in his speech. He said that, for example, he gave the example saying that if we are sick, we go to the best doctors. If Liberians should change the legislature into one that would enable a president to do the wrong thing, whatsoever. We must also simply vote for who we like, but not who has principles to stand for what is right and to fight for, So he's calling Liberians to change their habit, to change the way they vote for their leadership, for their leaders. Is to rally around, and themselves, and the Liberian people should rally, to get a better democracy, whatsoever that is. And he also said, I'm trying to go through his comment quickly. It is time to think differently for the result we seek, to become a country
we know we can become and to fulfill the promise to make a children, the promise that will make a better Liberia for them to inherit. So he's calling for action there. So to answer your question, he specifically called for action in his speech. I love the speech. The speech is well written.
Your closing thoughts?
Well, my closing thought is I love the speech. The speech is well written. He made several arguments. He listed all the issues that are wrong with this government. He listed all the issues that is wrong with Liberia, some other old age issues and things of that nature. He called for action. You know, he gave us hope. So this speech was well written. It had all the ingredients a speech should have. So I love the speech, and I'm going to end it right there. I'm going to close right there.
Closing thoughts.
Me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I agree the speech is a political speech, but hopelessly empty. Nothing. Nothing is in that speech besides the rhetorics, besides the usual call to change president and not to change system. I've said it here.
He didn't call to change no president, though.
Over and over. I've said it here. We have a flawed political system in Liberia. We have a predatory political system in our country. We have a highly centralized political system in our country in which the president is all powerful. We need to think about a different governance structure for our country. And regrettably, no Liberian politician is brave enough to embrace this agenda because all they are interested in is to inherit the enormous power of that centralized system that make Monrovia, Liberia, and relegate the rest of the country to non-existence. We have to break down the system of governance in our country. And Asani, I agree with you. Presidents in Africa are powerful. But at the same time, the people are powerful than the president. We need a political leader, a political movement that will mobilize the people to change the trajectory of governance in our country. This idea that, you know, it is the leadership, when we move the leadership, when I get there, again, I keep giving you people the example. We move Paul Toba, we move Samuel Doe, we move Kelly. Why are these problems? Why have they not changed? And you want to tell me that if we remove Joria, we put Cummings, that when the problem will change? There is no evidence for that.
Thank you.
No evidence. So we need bold leadership. And when we talk about hope, hope is not words. Hope is action. And let me tell you what gave me hope. For 12 years, I've been living in the diaspora for more than 25 years. I saw Liberians that fled from their country as a result of war. Some of these Liberians were forced to take up citizenship of another country. The issue of dual citizenship became a problem for our people. For the past 12 years, political leaders paid lip service to that issue. Until 2 years ago, when George Manawia was able to put his political capital on the line, became courageous, and handled the issue of dual citizenship with solid hands.
Thank you.
That's how you create hope. Today, dual citizenship will be on the ballot. It gives people hope. Hope is action. It's not just words.
Thank you, Mr. Kone.
Action.
Mr. King.
Thank you very much. I agree with some of what Anthony said and what Mr. Kone said and what Mr. Edward Dorr said. These are my final thoughts. I think the president, I think this speech for Alex Cummings is he has to demonstrate to the people some kind of strength. And because that's what we look at in Liberia, we look at the presidency and he has to speak the language of the masses. And the language of the masses is they want to see a very strong president. The other thing that I think is very interesting is that, yes, this guy did do a call to action. And he's basically telling you, vote Alex Cummings in 2023. But this year, vote a CPP. So that was something that I think he was able to kind of bring that across. The other thing that I noticed that's very interesting is that around the same time that this speech is done, it's the same time that VP Bokai was opening a training program. So I think that you're going to see these two guys over the next 2 years do different things, try to demonstrate that they're improving on their weaknesses as they go to try to be the standard bearer or for the political seat. And in conclusion, they have to overcome a lot. The CPP will have to overcome a CDC that is really riding on something very powerful, which is the dual citizenship. And it's going to be interesting how they land. And George Weah will have 3 years, if that dual citizenship gets approved this year, to show maybe how the diaspora in the next coming 3 years before 2023 can help uplift the country. So I think that's the battlefield. And I think Alexander Cummings has come out with a big bang. And I think VP Bokai, too, in his weaknesses, is trying to show that he can come up with a bang as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me come first before I can let the political guy conclude, because he knows the thing better than I know it. And so I think what the speech shows here is Mr. Cummings is still learning, and this is a marked improvement from, I will call it Alexander Cummings 2.0, because this is unlike the Cummings we have known to really clearly articulate and this is bare knuckles combat with President Weah, and we have not seen anything like this before. So I think this is good news for people in Cummings land, that yes, this is the Cummings you've been asking for, and now he has delivered. Now he has to put a little more power behind those punches so that people can really see that he's the alternative. And I want to agree that it is not enough listing the problems. We want to see some bold ideas as to how he represents that change. Liberians don't want to make the same mistake that people did not clearly define themselves as the alternative, and they were elected based on maybe this person out the country at heart, or is popular, or that. So I don't think Mr. Cummings wants to make that same mistake and keep waiting for that special hour before he actually lay out his plan and draw that sharp contrast. But the biggest takeaway, or the big side of Cummings' speech to me, is because there's no speech from President Weah. I think that's where he won big, because no speech from President Weah over this time made Cummings' speech a big one. The downside is he did not clearly lay out the contrast, but it's very easy to go against somebody who is not talking, right? Since he's not making any speech, so whatever I say, at least something is there. But Liberians expect a little bit more than that this year. So Mr. Cummings can go back and do a little more. Mr. CA, I wanted to start because I enjoy when you disagree with me. Your turn.
Mr. Jai, and that what makes this platform exceptional, that we are independent in our minds and in our thinking, and Liberia can only hope for nothing but the best here, this platform. So let me use the opportunity to disagree with you again on your quote about Cummings quoting Einstein. Why he can't quote somebody from Liberia? We are in a global world, Dennis. This is 1841.
You don't know where I'm coming from.
And I'm closing. I didn't interrupt you, sir. I'm closing here. Okay, the last time I listened to Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, and other leaders in America, they will always say there's an African proverb, and the rest is history for you. They will quote that proverb that has been cited in Africa, even though they are talking to Americans. I'm saying that to say that Cummings did not do anything wrong by quoting Einstein, because the quote is in line with his message about us doing things in a different way, so as to get
elitism. Elitism.
No, it's not elitism. It's not elitism. That's how you see it, and I disagree with you completely different.
The quote was metaphoric, man.
Yeah, the man is interrupting me while I'm making my closing argument. You know?
Sorry.
Yeah. So you just taking me off track. But to the speech, okay? I think this is one of the best speeches Alexander Cummings has given. He came out strong and swinging. And in a political terrain like ours, you want to project strength. And you want to project that strength in your language. And he did that. The language that he did use in the speech also captured the pain and the economic reality on the ground. You don't want the language in your speech to be far from what people are feeling. Then you will not be able to make your speech to resonate with them. On the issue of the pandemic that he talked about, these are realities that are crippling our people today. And he spoke to those things. Yes, there was call to action to vote a CPP or candidate in all elections, or CPP candidates in all elections as one of the options that the people have if what they have today is not something that they are happy with. So he called the people to action. And I think Mr. Cummings calling the speech a recitation of what happened yesterday of our HO problem. Well, that's what politicians do. When they are not in charge, they tell you what the problems are. And I agree with him that you have to give alternative. But there was not a policy speech. This speech was intended to seize the moment when the president should have been the one to address the country, and he failed to do that miserably. Cummings needed to use that opportunity, and he did that in style and with strength, and he couldn't be right on. This is one of the best speeches ever, and it will go down in history. It's all over. We should be talking about our president making a national speech during this Independence Day period so that people can say, yes, the president has restored hope. The only person, if anybody gave hope during the July 26th time, it will be Mr. Alexander Cummings. And to those who might be celebrating me because of my comment, I am now for CPP, I'm now for ANC, and I will never be. I will remain here.
Before you learn, you are celebrating Mr. Cummings because of that. But let me shock you. Mr. Cummings himself has withdrawn his July 26th greeting because of what he saw in the Southeast. I think that was the lowest point in his speech.
No, that was the greatest strength in his speech, and it shows the human movement in the speech.
That was the most hypocrisy that he demonstrated.
No, that was the most human movement in the speech, that he saw something and that touched him and that broke him down, and he expressed it in a more human way. And that is what any leader would do. You do not want to hide what shocked you about the reality on the ground. You want to communicate that. And I think that will be able to move him in a more different way. And that's why you saw that kind of speech. It was based on what he saw. So the speech really reference all he experienced, and I think we're going to see a different coming. It doesn't mean that I'm celebrating. You told the people that I do the thing better than you, and I'm doing it now. You say I'm on the other side, I'm celebrating somebody. I'm celebrating the idea of the speech that the man communicated. On that note, thank God I got the last word on this one. That's why it's good to be a host and not an analyst. I give the man protocol without but no way for you to eat. Anyway, folks, in cyberspace, we want to say thank you for following our broadcast here at Focus on Liberia. We sincerely apologize for the music that we're playing in the background. That was my fault. Thank God you notified us. We corrected that. This is how we'll come to the end of this show. Watch Focus on Liberia always, because you will get nothing but the best. And let me remind you, tomorrow, Sunday, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we are having another edition of our show or the series called Where is God? And we'll be discussing this time around, where is God in disaster, in pandemic, and wars? You want to know that? Join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Dennis Jai will be here. He's a Bible guy. I'm not a Bible guy, so my questions can sometimes choke the host, the panelists. So you don't want to miss it. Mr. Jai, it seems to be you are hungry for the last one. I give it to you.
No, I throw it back to William. William, close us. You know, when you're cooking, you know, the big potato always go under. So let William close and we'll be done.
I was just gonna ask Anthony if
I'm still in there.
You're gonna see Alexander Cummings wearing a purple suit, because this transformation is very interesting.
It's interesting, and Mr. Cummings have been wearing the African attire to his credit. So wearing purple suit is something I think he has done it before. I don't remember seeing the one we actually call purple suit, but he has been wearing the African attire. And I think he will wear a purple suit. You will see that someday. Well, we have to leave it there, folks. Thank you for watching.
Mr. CA, let's remind our guests too that we have tried on numerous occasions to invite Mr. Cummings to this platform. We have not been successful. We hope this new version of Cummings will be open to come to Focus on Liberia and other platform where he can where he can draw that contrast that we are talking about. That's an open invitation still out there for Mr. Cummings.
And Mr. Cummings should not be surprised that, maybe Anthony is talking good about my speech. When I go there, I'll go have an easy ride. Mr. Cummings, you will sweat. So I'm just telling you first, and you come here, you will sweat. Hey, but Mr. Cummings, we need you here. You want to represent our country at the highest level. You want to be on Focus on Liberia because we are focusing on Liberia. You can't be president, you don't want to focus on Liberia. So we're on the same page. Come, let's do it. On that note, folks, bye-bye.
You're not gonna celebrate the haircut my wife gave me?
Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Arriba!